One of the most significant moments of the One Punch Man anime happened 3 years ago. At that time, Saitama was still an ordinary person and did not have super strength. He was looking for a job and unexpectedly met a monster named Crabranth. They started a conversation where Saitama found out that the monster was looking for a boy who had drawn nipples on his shell. Passing near the playground, Saitama notices the very boy the monster was looking for. At this moment, the monster itself finds this boy, and Saitama decides to stand up for the boy. In the end, the monster has been defeated. And from that moment, he decides that he must be a hero and begins his superhero training to gain strength. Next, we watch Saitama's victory over Vaccine Man, the Avenger of the planet Earth. Then the victory over the Strongest Brothers, the victory over the Roof Breaker, and finally one of the most epic victories of Saitama is the battle with the Underground. He attacks Saitama, but he deftly dodges and the monster breaks the wall. Then Saitama starts a counterattack and destroys one of the monsters. Then they decide to attack in a crowd, but Saitama, using his strength, scatters them in the corners, and then the boss of these monsters finally appears. But in the end, it turns out that it was just a dream. Waking up, he still meets those very underground people outside his window, but defeats them in a couple of seconds. Sea City is attacked by a female monster named Komariha, who is being hunted by Genos, a cyborg and future student of Saitama. Genos tries to single-handedly defeat the monster, but unfortunately loses, although he shows a good level of strength. Saitama appears and slaps Komariha with a punch. Genos, realizing how strong Saitama is, asks his students to join him. From this moment begins the story of a student of Genos and teacher Saitama. Also after this victory, Saitama became interested in a secret organization called the Temple of Evolution, whose leader is the mad scientist Dr. Genos, who wants to understand where Saitama's strength comes from. Saitama is attacked by a whole squad of monsters from the Temple of Evolution, including Mantis, Frogman, Slugros, Earth Dragon, Armored Gorilla, and King of Beasts. Saitama quickly deals with this gang of monsters, interrogates the gorilla, and goes in search of the Temple of Evolution in order to destroy it. Saitama and Genos find the Temple of Evolution. Genos instantly blows up the upper level of the temple, after which they find their way to the lower levels and go in search of a doctor. Meanwhile, inside the temple, a conversation is taking place between Dr. Genos and the strongest warrior of the Evolution Temple, Ashura Kabuto. The Mad Doctor requests that Saitama be captured as a research sample, marked not necessarily alive. Ashura Kabuto and the Doctor find this Saitama and Genos. Genos is immediately slammed into the wall, and an epic fight between Saitama and Ashura Kabuto ensues. In turn, Ashura Kabuto was one of the first to feel Saitama's power and wondered where he got it from. Saitama then finally talked about his training and how he broke his power limiter. As a result, Ashura loses his temper, takes on his super strong form, and tries to destroy Saitama. As a result, he grabs powerful blows, flying off from just one of Saitama's normal blows. After that, the Doctor understands that it is better to stop experimenting and tries to change himself. We see the Paradise Gang and their leader, Hammerhead, as well as one of Saitama's main antagonists named Sonic, who is a modern-day ninja. He was given the task of destroying the entire Paradise Gang, which he eventually accomplished. Saitama also goes looking for the gang, as all members of the Paradise Gang are bald, and this threatens Saitama's heroic image. However, Sonic is ahead of Saitama and quickly destroyed everyone. Saitama managed to find only the surviving Hammerhead, smashed his suit, and even managed to spare him. Sonic meets with Saitama and mistakes him for one of the bandits of the Paradise Gang, and tries to kill him. Saitama randomly strikes the bottom of Sonic and completely immobilizes Sonic. As a result, Sonic promises to take revenge on Saitama for this shame. On this day, the 55th Hero Qualification exam begins. Saitama and Genos sign up for these exams to join the Hero Association and gain hero rank. Passing the exams, Saitama proves to be so strong that he simply breaks measuring instruments and breaks all the strength and speed records. According to the results of the exam, Saitama gets the rank of a C-class hero, and Genos gets an S-class 3 levels higher. The Class A hero Snake tries to get rid of the rookie Saitama, but ends up with the Tin Snake lying on the ground. Training begins in a real fight between Saitama and Genos. Genos shows everything he has, but unfortunately he has never been able to hit Saitama. This is not the end of their training, but an epic long battle where everything ends in a draw. Saitama thinks about Geno's future training and he doesn't know what to teach him. Then he goes to the city in search of villains, but does not find anyone. Suddenly, he catches Sonic's dagger, which came to him to repay the debt and take revenge. Saitama never remembered Sonic's name and calls him the Pink Elephant. The hero Tiger Mike intervenes in their conflict, who only wants to attract attention and show how cool he is. Sonic ends up knocking out Tiger Mike randomly, and Saitama turns off Sonic as he started attacking civilians. After this point, Sonic goes to jail for attacking civilians. At this moment, Tornado, second in S-Class, is nervous and wants to find a strong opponent. A mission has begun to find a ghost from the city of Z, whose name is Combo Monster. Two Class A heroes safely lose the fight to this monster. Saitama, returning home, accidentally meets this monster and remembers that he forgot to buy seaweed. Then he notices that the monster is made of these same algae. Arriving home, the hero prepares seaweed, most likely simply by taking it from the monster's body. A giant meteorite is approaching the Earth, which is capable of destroying several cities, and maybe even the planet itself. Three SS-class heroes, Genos, Bang, and the Metal Knight try to destroy this meteorite, but unfortunately they fail. However, the meteorites are destroyed by Saitama, but the fragments still destroy a large part of the city. A couple of days later, Saitama is walking around the city when he meets two dastardly heroes who are trying to morally humiliate Saitama by publicly accusing him of destroying Z City with meteorite fragments in front of a large crowd of people. People begin to accuse Saitama, to which he reacted quite harshly in literary terms. Then Genos appears, he calms Saitama, and they safely go home. The next day, the Sea Folk attack. The first to fight with them is the A-class hero Sting, who manages to beat several fairly strong monsters, but the Sea King appears, who finishes off Sting with one blow. Lightning Max came to his aid. He tries to defeat the Sea King, but he fails. Later, Homo Zek is an S-class hero, and Sonic is a jailbreak. They also try to stop the Sea King, but he is too strong, so Homo Zeku will not get very well, and Sonic manages to escape due to his speed. When no one stops the Sea King, he goes to the Shelter of People, where he is going to destroy them. However, there were brave heroes who want to stop him, but they quickly find themselves unconscious. Then Saitama receives a call from the Hero Association, informing them of the whereabouts of the Sea King. He goes to the indicated place. While Saitama is on his way, Genos decides to attack the Sea King. He manages to hit his face well, but in a counterattack, the Sea King tears off Genos' metal arm. They have a not-weak battle, where Genos with one hand fights almost on an equal footing with the Sea King, who at that time has a demonic level of danger, which suggests that Genos is a very good hero. But unfortunately, in the end, Genos loses. At that moment, a disenfranchised rider arrives who does not have any power, but he manages to gain a couple of seconds before Saitama arrives. Finally, Saitama arrives and takes out the Sea King with one blow. But the crowd of people once again tries to slander Saitama, saying that he is a crook. But Saitama simply ignored their words and flew back to his home. At home, Saitama discovers a letter of thanks from the people he saved, as well as a letter to promote him to first in C-Class. He is invited to the association's office, where he is offered a choice: stay in C-Class in first place or move to B-Class. He decides to move to B-Class. We are watching the battle between the Ancient Master and the second hero in the S-Class of Tornado, who deals with this giant by sending a summoned meteorite from space at him. Genos and Saitama come to the school at the invitation of Bang and Silver Fang from S-Class. He shows several lessons and talks about his best student Guru, who went crazy. Suddenly, a messenger from the Hero Association bursts in and announces an urgent gathering of all S-Class heroes, also inviting Saitama. All the S-Class heroes are sitting in the office, including Saitama. The president announces the death of the Great Seer and her prophecy about the destruction of the Earth. During the meeting, the association's office is attacked from the air by a gang led by the Sky King, but they are all quickly defeated by the alien warrior Merzergard, who arrived on an alien ship led by Lord Boros. The prophecy predicted by the seer begins to come true. 99% of City A was destroyed. Saitama immediately goes to destroy the giant alien ship. To help him comes a student of the Atomic Samurai who took on Mercer Guard, but he cannot cope with his power. Therefore, he is saved by the Atomic Samurai himself and several heroes from the S-Class. The divine level of danger is declared. Meanwhile, Saitama, inside the ship, decides to clear it of the aliens. On the way, he meets one of the strongest warriors of Gorobus, but easily defeats him. Then he goes in search of the main boss. The alien boss Boros himself learns about Saitama's attack. At that moment, the battle of the S-Class heroes against Mercer Guard began. The Atomic Samurai destroys it. However, it has a regeneration property and regenerates its limbs. Then Homo Zek delivers a series of blows to him, but they are meaningless. Then the three of them attack him, and Mercer Guard simply has no chance, and the heroes win. On the way to the boss, Saitama deals with another powerful warrior, Garyaginshup, who has telepathy and creates vortices. He tried to throw stones at Saitama but failed. Saitama decides to destroy the monster with his own weapon. Then he throws a stone at him and destroys the alien. After that, the aliens decide to bombard the city and destroy all the living. The ship produces fire from all of its weapons, however. All projectiles are stopped in the air by the tornado with its telekinesis ability. She unfolds them and sends them back towards the ship, and everything falls back on the aliens themselves. Meanwhile, Saitama finally finds Boros, who immediately sees Saitama's boundless power. Boros tells of a prophecy in which a warrior from a distant planet was once again able to rekindle the passion for battle. After a little hello and a story from Boros, they begin to fight. Boros unleashes a furious attack, knocking Saitama far away, but Boros does not back down and catches up with Saitama and launches a powerful flurry of attacks on him. He released all his power, but Saitama was able to resist. In battle, they break through the ship's protective shield, where Boros releases his energy, after which Saitama cannot resist. There is an explosion and Saitama is barely on his feet. Boros is already rejoicing in his victory, but Saitama still wants to fight. Then Boros with his energy struck a blow comparable to the speed of light. While flying, he continues to attack Saitama and sends him to the moon. But Saitama quickly finds his bearings and heads back to the planet. Boros continues his furious attacks. However, Saitama shatters his ability, and in the end Saitama wins the battle, with Boros recognizing Saitama as the strongest. After the battle, Class A hero Sweet Mask scolds Class S heroes for allowing an entire city to be destroyed. Then he gets up and destroys all the aliens taken prisoner, after which he leaves. A Metal Knight arrives, to whom the remains of the ship are handed over for research. But a damaged Saitama comes out of this ship and tells about his victory to Genos. But Tornado appears and chastises Saitama, not believing that he is from B class and was able to defeat the main boss. Genos tries to put her in her place. For this, the Tornado slams him into the wall. Old Man Bang appears and calms Tornado's anger. Saitama and Genos return from the shop where they bought the ingredients for the soup. Behind them in the distance is a 7SS class hero, the strongest of the people, Great King, who goes to the game store to buy a new game. Suddenly, the area is attacked by a monster called Tung. However, King stands in his way, whom he did not expect to meet here. The crowd of people recognizes King, and they begin to rejoice and ask King to destroy the villain. The frightened monster is shocked by everything that is happening, so he just gives up and asks for his mercy. And King goes home happy because he bought a new game. On the way home, he is attacked by the G4 robot, which is destroyed by Genos, since King, under the pretext of going to the toilet, frightened by the robot's attack, simply ran home. After defeating G4, Genos goes to his creator, Professor Cusin, and asks to improve his body, due to the parts taken from the body of the G4 robot. Saitama came to visit King to ask why the strongest King ran away from the robot. However, King doesn't have time to answer as a crow monster breaks into the wall of his apartment, causing King to get scared and Saitama to put the monster to sleep with one blow. Saitama realized that King is not the strongest hero. It turns out that in the past the nickname of the strongest of the people, King, came from the victory of a hero unknown at that time to Saitama. Saitama suggests that King becomes stronger and simply walks away. Meanwhile, in the office of the Association of Heroes, the head of Sich's department is meeting with bandits and thugs who have an important business. Suddenly, Sonic appears, who is looking for Saitama, but he does not find him. He decides to steal the papers with information about the plans of the Association of Heroes and reveals all the cards. It says that the Association of Heroes is depressed and therefore wants to ask for help from bandits and thugs. After the job is done, Sonic just walks away. At this moment, the first in B class held Blizzard, whose name is Fubuki. She finds out that Saitama was in B class and therefore wants to recruit him into her personal gang. Garou is a student of the Silver Fang who hunts heroes. At the Hero Association meeting, he eliminates 3 Class A heroes, as well as all the bandits and thugs that were at the meeting. Genos, while at home, notices the monster, which he decides to destroy. However, this monster turns out to be Sonic, who came to take revenge on Saitama. Genos and Sonic begin to fight. They are both very fast, so they deliver blows comparable to the speed of light, but none of them give up. Then Genos decides to attack even faster, but Sonic demonstrates his speed, with which he multiplied himself. He entangles Genos and slams him into the ground. At this time, Fubuka and her subordinates came to Saitama, who invited him to join their gang. However, Saitama immediately refused, thus angering Fubuku. She ordered her guys to destroy Saitama, but he made only one blow, and the fighters took off. Then Fubuki decides to punish Saitama herself and show him all her power. However, she fails and she loses. Saitama accidentally sees the fight between Genos and Sonic and decides to fight his old enemy. Sonic uses the tenfold shadow technique, which Saitama can't resist. But Saitama performs a side-to-side jump technique, and Sonic flies away from the shockwave. Fubuki is shocked by Saitama's strength and decides to tell the reason why she came to Saitama, as well as about her sister Tornado. But King comes to take his game away from Saitama, and Fubuki is again shocked, as she still cannot believe that a Class A hero communicates on equal terms with a Class B hero. At the Silver Fang martial arts school, Teacher Fang beats up his best student, Chiranko, and kicks him out of the school. Chiranko tells all about it to all Saitama and Genos. They realize that Chiranko's expulsion from the school was Bang's plan to destroy Garou. Without hesitation, Chiranko goes in search of Garou and unexpectedly becomes a witness of Garou's fight against the 16th in S-Class Mike Master and his team in T-shirts, as well as a disenfranchised driver. At the end of the battle, Chiranko himself joins, whom, like everyone else, Garou sent to sleep. Meanwhile, Silver Fang and his brother go looking for the hero hunter. Saitama came to the hospital to the heroes that Garou sent to sleep. There he tries to collect as much information as possible about the hero hunter. After talking to Chiranko, Chiranko gives Saitama a ticket to the martial arts tournament. Saitama decides to enter the tournament, but under the account of Chiranko. Garou is talking to a boy named Torio, who was holding a hero guide that Garou wanted to learn. Next, the battle of the 26th in the A class of the Golden Ball and the 28th in the A class of the Spring Mustache begins against the hero hunter Garou, who defeats them without any problems. At the market, Saitama was looking for a wig for himself, but he accidentally met Garou, who was standing in front of a wig stand. Then Garou attacks Saitama, and Saitama in turn knocks out Garou with one blow. Since childhood, Garou has always been rooting for monsters, but heroes have always won. In his opinion, this was unfair. The information about Garou's victory over the S-Class heroes reached the office of the Hero Association. They are concerned about their safety, and therefore decide to use the strongest heroes to protect the heads of the association. King is called first, but he immediately refuses. As a result, the Steel Bat becomes the defender of one of the investors, which he is not very happy about. Steel Bat leaves for a couple of minutes to talk with his sister on the phone, as the monsters immediately attack the investor and his son. But Steel Bat sees this, and defeats these monsters without much difficulty. However, even stronger monsters appear, which at first beat him, but he has enough strength to defeat them. Unexpectedly, a Dragon Danger level monster appears, an ancient centipede that slams the Steel Bat into the wall with one blow. He still manages to inflict a good blow on the monster, but with the second blow, the centipede throws him back several tens of meters. At Saitama's registration as Chiranko for a martial arts tournament, Saitama meets the real-life Senpai Chiranko, whose name is Scowl. Saitama hides his face so he doesn't get suspicious. The Hero Association tries to contact the Steel Bat, but nothing comes of it. An urgent meeting is being held at which they receive news of the attack on all cities at the same time. The steel bat, after being hit by a centipede, after flying several tens of meters, falls right in front of Guru, and they begin to fight. The steel bat attacks Guru, but he deflects all of his attacks. Then the steel bat decides to use the hurricane move, but for Guru it is too weak, and he pushes him back a couple of meters. Guru thinks that he has won, but the steel bat is once again undermined and is already swinging at Guru's head, but he is stopped by his younger sister, whom he promised that he would not fight in her presence. Then Guru decides to leave Steel Bat and his sister alone and just walks away. There were two monsters watching the fight between Guru and Steel Bat, one of which decides to take Steel Bat's sister hostage. However, Guru intervenes and destroys the monster. The second monster says that he is a representative of the Monster Association and offers to join their ranks, but Guru refuses. Then all the monsters are ordered to take more hostages and retreat back to the lair. The opening of the martial arts tournament begins. List all the participants and talk about the strongest of them. In the first battle, the famous Suiryu went against Lightning Max. Suiryu wins with one blow and proves that he is really strong. Genos is watching the fights and suddenly he gets a notification about the attack of a large number of monsters and goes to fight them alone. First, he decided to deal with the Face Ripper. He quickly attacks him with two swords, however. Genos has strong armor, and he destroyed it with an electric fist. On the way, he meets the awakened cockroach, which moves very quickly. But Genos has a special move for people like him. Super glue flows from his legs, thereby sticking the enemy, and Genos makes a decisive blow. Meanwhile, the fight between Saitama and Bakuzen begins. Saitama, as usual, defeats him with one blow. Suiryu, motivated by Saitama, ends the fight with one punch. The Super Garden monster takes on a bunch of heroes effortlessly. Fubuki's team then appears, but Super Sada takes control of Fubuki's people with her charms. However, her charms do not work on Fubuki herself. It turns out that the target of this monster was not Fubuki herself, but her sister Tornado, whom she wanted to lure out and defeat. However, at the appearance of the tornado, Super Sada got goosebumps from fear, and so she runs away in quiet horror, hiding behind the captured captives. It turns out that the monsters are controlled by the King of Monsters, Orochi, who lives in the lair of the Monster Association with his assisted psychos. And in the tournament, Saitama defeats Furry Face. After that, he advanced to the semi-finals, where he faced off against a genetically engineered human named Chose. But Saitama also defeated him with one punch. He gets to the final of the tournament. In City UI, the Emperor's child fights against the jellyfish, in which the child wins, as the pig god helped him by eating the jellyfish. Next comes Drive Knight versus normal monsters, and Sweet Mask versus a lot of monsters, where the heroes quickly win. It also shows super fast Saint Flash fighting a giant octopus monster, which is eventually destroyed by Tornado. At this time, a secret meeting of the strongest swordsmen, who were gathered by the Atomic Samurai, is held to discuss a plan to destroy the hero hunter. Suddenly, one of the swordsmen whose name is Harajiri turns out to be a ward of the Monster Association. He ate a monster cage to turn into a monster. He also suggests that the others eat these cells, otherwise he will destroy them all. Having chosen the moment, the Atomic Samurai destroys the traitor with one move. As a result of the meeting, they decide to go in search of Guru, but before that, find and destroy the Monster Association. Meanwhile, fighting continues at the martial arts tournament. Saitama and Suiryu come out in this fight. Initially, Suiryu tests his opponent with kicks and concludes that Saitama is a strong opponent. Then he starts a kick fight, where he takes Saitama a couple of meters, and then throws him up and instantly slams him into the ground. But Saitama gets out of the hole as if nothing happened. Then Suiryu decides to throw another punch, after which the wig falls out, and Saitama is disqualified. However, Suiryu wants to end their fight to show his true strength. Enraged, he unleashes a series of punches, but the stone-faced Saitama just stands there. Then Suiryu kicks him back to perform his move. However, Saitama countered his attack by pushing him with his hip. Suiryu flies away and thereby loses the proceeds of the cup, which became the owner of Suiryu. At the same moment, monsters appear, led by Koketsu. Several fighters from the tournament attack him. However, he takes them out in one hit. Goketsu throws monster cages on the ground and offers those who wish to get a new power. Several fighters agree and begin to devour the cells, thereby turning into monsters. However, Tsuryu shows his strength to new monsters, and in a couple of blows, he destroys all the newly minted monsters. Then Tsuryu is left with one opponent, Goketsu. He throws monster cages at him and launches a flurry of punches, but Goketsu knocks Tsuryu to the ground with one blow. He decides to crush him, but Tsuryu gathers strength and begins a new series of attacks, after which not a single scratch remains on Goketsu. Distracted by people, Tsuryu receives a blow, thereby breaking his arm. Goketsu then steps on him, but Tsuryu raises his foot and climbs out, delivering a kick that catches Goketsu. He delivers decisive blows and Tsuryu loses. But Goketsu does not want to finish off Tsuryu himself, so he gave him to 3 monster crows to be torn to pieces. All this was watched by Bakuzen, who, due to his jealousy of Tsuryu, decides to become a monster. He eats several cells at once, after which he simply loses consciousness. Meanwhile, Lightning Max and Viper arrive to help Tsuryu. The 3 of them defeat the Ravens. Tsuryu invites everyone to retreat, but the heroes do not agree with him. Then Tsuryu decides to leave alone, but the Bakuzen monster appears on the way, which inflicts a flurry of blows on Tsuryu, thereby knocking him out. Goketsu invites Bakuzen to follow him to the Monster Association's lair, but Bakuzen believes that no one can order him and attacks Goketsu. He, in turn, shows who is the boss here and just leaves. Bakuzen decides to finish everyone off, as he loves to humiliate the weak. Tsuryu asks for help with the last of his strength. At that moment, Saitama appears and heads towards Bakuzen. Bakuzen immediately starts attacking Saitama. He lands several hits on Saitama, but then Saitama destroys Bakuzen with one hit. Tsuryu thanks Saitama for saving him and also warns him that there is a creepy monster outside the arena called Goketsu. Then Saitama goes in search of Goketsu. Tsuryu begins to panic that his savior will be destroyed, but Goketsu's head lands right in front of the prone Tsuryu, who is shocked by Saitama's strength. Saitama arrives and asks not to talk about the fact that he pretended to be Chirenko. Tsuryu realizes that he also wants to become a hero and asks to be Saitama's apprentice. Saitama refuses. Saitama meets King. They talk about Saitama's mood, and suddenly Garou appears, who notices King and decides to attack him. However, Saitama kicks Garou into the wall. At the training field, Sonic encounters 2 ninja survivors who have come to recruit him into monsters. They show their level of power, which impresses Sonic. They leave him a monster cage. At home, Sonic ponders whether or not to be a monster, but in the end, he decides to weld the cage. He eats it, which causes indigestion. Saitama and King play video games where King defeats Saitama nonstop, causing Saitama to become furious. A staff member who is controlled by a parasite monster breaks into a meeting at the Hero Association's office in order to convey a message from the Monster Association. The parasite destroys one member of the Hero Association. However, he is thrown back by Chernobylsk, 11th in the S-Class. Then the parasite comes out of the body and tries to take over Chernobylsk's body. However, his muscles are too strong for the parasite, and he simply crushes the monster. Meanwhile, in the Monster Association's lair, Psychos tells all the monsters the plan to destroy the Hero Association. However, the monsters do not support it. Then the leader Orochi decides to intimidate everyone. He finds a defeated, but surviving cockroach monster and eats it. The next target is Super Sada, but Seiko stops him as she could be useful. Genos has undergone modernization and has become many times stronger. 4 boys found someone in their hideout. After voting, they send Tario to the hideout, where he meets Garou, who is trying to recuperate after the fight. Suddenly, a whole crowd of heroes appears in front of the shelter, including Death Gatling, Smile Man, Sting, and 5 more heroes. They all came to destroy Garou, but Garou notices this crowd of heroes and decides to quickly study their abilities with the help of the Atlas of Heroes. Then Garou decided to go out and fight the heroes to finally complete the list of 100 defeated heroes. Bullets and arrows fly at Garou, but he easily dodges them. He is surrounded on all sides, and every hero strikes at him. Then he is asked to surrender. Garou's mind becomes cloudy as the poisoned arrow hit him. Having gathered, he begins to counterattack and destroys several heroes in a couple of minutes. Then the Death Gatling decides to use his machine gun, and Guru takes cover from the bullets by the rookie. But the newcomer wanted to be useful to the team, and not having time to launch an attack, Guru already defeats him. This is seen by Sting, who wants to avenge his friend, but Guru stops his attack and begins his series of counterattacks. As a result, Guru defeated 7 heroes, and only Death Gatling remained, who decides to use his death volley to finish off Guru. However, nothing works, as Guru is too strong. Torio learns that Guru is a monster and runs away from him screaming. The wounded Guru is attacked by the rejuvenated Genos, who begins to attack him ferociously. They fight as equals, but Guru slams him into the ground. However, Genos uses a blast wave that hits Guru. Then Guru decides to repeat the movements of the Watchdog, thereby tearing off Genos' prosthesis. But Genos can even remotely control his body, and so with the help of a fart, he ties Guru to a tree. But he rested on him, and after a volley of Genos got out of the trap. Several monsters emerge from the ground, which Genos handles with no problem. Silver Fang and his brother Bang come to the aid of Genos, who deal with the second group of monsters, and only Guru remains. Bang asks Guru to fight him. Meanwhile, Saitama is losing 81.0 to King, which makes him furious. Saitama remembers that he hasn't seen Genos in a couple of days and decides to go looking for him. The epic battle between Bang and Guru continues. Bang starts attacking Guru, who only defends himself. Guru decides to strike, but Bang blocks all of his attacks and continues his furious attacks. With the last of his strength, Guru tries to hide, but he is not allowed to do so. A phoenix monster appears in the sky, tasked with saving Guru. The heroes continue their attacks on Guru. Then Guru decides to hit the ground, and at that moment a monster picks him up. Genos tries to shoot them down, but an ancient centipede appears and takes Genos' blow. They begin to fight the ancient centipede, but the heroes fail to defeat it. Bang and his brother grab Genos and run away from the centipede. At this moment, King appears and with a mouthpiece lures the centipede to himself, saying that he brought Blast. One day, Blast defeated a centipede and she vowed revenge. The centipede charges at King, but at the last moment, Saitama appears and destroys the ancient centipede with one blow. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, like and press the bell so as not to miss new videos. AniMap was with you. Bye everyone.